So in traditional network security, where we're looking at discovering assets and seeing how IT assets are behaving, it can be quite intrusive. The tools will probe the network, they'll probe the computer systems, and that can interfere with operation, but in the IT environment, it's generally not so critical and it won't cause much disruption. However, OT environments, production environments, are far more sensitive. To be kind of really sure that we can both protect and detect against threats and detect when things are happening without interfering or causing a safety issue in OT environments. We use passive network technologies which don't actually go out and interrogate the network, but rather they observe what's happening. So because we're running a purely passive sensor that just looks at the passing network traffic, it makes it much easier to deploy inside safety certified zones without kind of C or safety case rework. And that matters, enormously for regulated OT environments. So depending on the technology you're using to look at the traffic and detect what's going on within the OT environment, you might have to use a span port or a network tap on the network, and that will mirror the traffic to a specific device. Or you may have the option to use a software sensor within the OT environment. So if you have virtualized infrastructure, you have a software capable OT sensor that can monitor and analyze the traffic. These sensors we deploy, we use them through our partner EmberOT, and they can parse Modbus, DMP3, OPC-UA, and lots of other traffic. Make sure that we can kind of see everything that's going on, make sense of it. And we discover assets, we can baseline normal behaviour, we can spot nefarious activities such as unauthorised PLC logic changes that aren't supposed to happen. We can flag any device anomalies and any unauthorised behaviour that's happening on the network. Then you have more flexibility, and sometimes you'll mix and match the two. So some production environments may have a large central facility. For example, utilities environment may have a control data center and they have remote stations, or some production environments are chained to smaller sites. So you may have a central large OT security appliance that's within the network off a span or a tap port, and also software sensors that are running on smaller infrastructure in remote sites that all talk back to a central OT security appliance and sensor. So when we're using the modern software-based OT security sensors, it gives us the ability to look at the traffic going across the network, and within that traffic we can see a protocol metadata. It gives us the vendor, the model, firmware version, and any installed capabilities for that asset. So you don't need to actively probe that asset to potentially interfere with it to get that information. It's there within the traffic. We just need to know how to extract it and to make the best use of it. It's important that we construct a baseline, and that means looking at how assets normally communicate, how frequently they communicate, what protocols they're using when those protocols are active. And that's like kind of looking at between device to device. So we build up a pattern of that over time. We understand when certain operations are going to happen, what that means for activity on the network. So any deviations from that baseline become an alert, escalated into an incident. So some of the things that might kind of alert it into the SOC, which for them to triage and investigate as to whether this is a true positive incident in progress, might be an unauthorized Modbus function code happening across the network, and things when you get unexpected writes to a coil or a register range, or just new devices appearing on a segment that weren't there before. And any firmware updates out of maintenance hours are particularly suspicious, would flag a potentially critical alert into the SOC for them to immediately investigate what's going on. So the holistic and integrated solution that we at e2e-assure use to keep our customers' OT environments safe is based around our long-established Cumulo SOC platform, and we also have a Cumulo appliance that we use that has local LLM capabilities and local AI models, but it also has a EmberOT software sensor on there running on a virtual machine within the appliance. So we can deploy these to our customers' sites. So it's running the OT sensor, it's running a local instance of Cumulo, it can do log collection and parsing on the device, and that provides one single complete SOC in an appliance that does both IT and OT and looks at the IT systems and tooling within the OT environment that may not have been able to be patched, and where you can't deploy EDR agents but can still pull all those in to provide a full unified OT and IT SOC service. We can kind of pull logs in from legacy systems, maybe running old versions of Windows where we can't deploy EDR agents because it's not supported anymore, or it would interfere with the day-to-day operation. So we've got all the tools we need on a single appliance that can be relayed to software sensors to give the full end-to-end view of both IT and OT within a sovereign environment, and it doesn't interfere with the client's operations and keeps the business safe 24/7.